Now I wanted to switch it up a bit and show you heritage that we have in Portugal. Like a form of music that I guess was born like in the fields as like work songs and evolved and passed through to generations orally. I'm talking about Cante Alentejano, which is Alentejo is a region of Portugal, and in this region specifically there's this polyphonic choir like type of songs. It has a it's very characteristic. I'm gonna show it to you. I'm gonna just play the video and we're gonna talk about it. This is what Cante Alentejano sounds like. By the way, this was the song that started off the revolution, but it obviously is inspired by Cante Alentejano, right? My family is from Alentejo, and I used to listen to Cante a lot when I was young and went holidays and such. Yeah, I'm not from Alentejo, so I didn't grow up with this, but it always struck me every time I heard Cante Alentejano, it's very characteristic, right? And always it's very different from other types of work songs. Anyway, let's listen to it.
What few people know is that Grândola is a tribute to Cante, one of the most important musical traditions of Portugal.
At least one that was preserved, by the way, I would add. So during the 60s and 70s, there was Michel Giacometti. It's a French ethnomusicologist that went around Portugal and gathered a lot of what was actually sang and what was actually passed down through generations. And you know, some of these, Cante Alentejano being a part of it, but like some of these, I don't feel were very well preserved. But thanks to him, we have like a very comprehensive archive, at least of that period of time. This is one of the forms of like work songs and of this kind that is very unique to Portugal as well.
Oh, minha mãe, oh, minha mãe, minha amada, quem tenho, mamãe tem tudo, quem não tem mãe não tem nada. Quem não tem mãe não tem nada. Oh, minha mãe, oh, minha.
Alentejo, south of Portugal. Most of the men gathered in this tavern work in agriculture. Others are miners, bakers, mechanics, civil servants. But all of them sing polyphonic songs in exactly the same way their ancestors did. This is Cante. This kind of music forms part of the Alentejo's common heritage. There are hundreds of such songs that everyone in the Alentejo sings, even without knowing who wrote them.
Yes,
Today,
it's passed
these
down
songs,
to
known
oral,
as modas,
tradition.
belong to everyone. They're one of the Alentejo's and Portugal's most precious treasures.
O cantar alentejano começou no trabalho da agricultura. A gente ia para o trabalho, os jovens aprendíamos com os homens mais velhos.
E não consigo estar um dia sem cantar. Não consigo. Nasce comigo, isto é meu. Pronto.
Yeah, so you learn this by imitating and like, you know, you learn the songs by listening to others and just repeating.
The origins of Cante are not easy to determine. Arabic, Christian, Jewish? The lyrics speak about the flat, dry and hot land of Alentejo, the work in the fields, the local saints, and of course, about love. But in the music, even when it celebrates Christianity, we can feel the influence of the Arabs who remained in Alentejo for over 500 years.
That's what men do in small towns in Alentejo. They gather in taverns, drink cheap wine, and sing all night. Yeah, they drink cheap wine in small glasses, right? That's life. But I like how consistent it is for something that is like oral tradition. Like, never mind the themes or the lyrics. It was always very curious to me. Like, you always, obviously you have that. That's sort of, even the type of harmonies that you build on these things are very characteristic. And then you have like the choir to complement that, and the kind of dissonances that it creates. It's fantastic, I think. Like how there's always one that sings in a high pitch and lingers after each verse. Yeah, it's like you always have someone that starts the tune, right? What they called modas, roughly translates to tune. There's someone that starts, there's someone that sings something higher, and then the choir comes in, right? But the one that sings higher usually lingers and you know, and is this back and forth. Reminds you of traditional Eastern European folk songs. Some of them. I think that there's something to folk. There's something to folk that's kind of has commonalities, right? In a way that emerges as like work songs and things like that. I was listening through the archive that this guy Giacometti, Michel Giacometti, created, and some of these work songs are fantastic. This is great. I never heard this. You know, it's something almost foreign to us. Yet this is the real tradition. Like, this is the real, you know, folk tradition of Portugal. Just as the tradition of the top of the hour ad break that you can avoid if you subscribe or if you use your Prime. You know, that's another tradition that is pretty pretty ingrained here. And I'll wait for the ads to go on so we can proceed. Let's go listen to some Cante Alentejano.
At the start of the 20th century, some groups, also called ranchos, began organizing this informal singing in every village, with local choirs and regular rehearsals.
There's something I have to say about this, which is folk ranchos, rancho folkloric, would be like a group of people that dress up in traditional clothes and they dance and they sing their, you know, folk songs. Now, this, like, there's a myth that when we had the dictatorship, like, people said that the regime wanted to create this image of Portugal where everyone was poor and happy and dancing. You know, it's the poor people that work the land and tend to their families. It was like, that's why we say Fado, Futebol e Fátima. It was like Fado, you know, was seen as like the music of the regime, football, entertainment for the masses, you know, entertainment, and Fátima being the religion, right? The importance of religion in the Portuguese life. And so there are these depictions of the ideal family at this time. You know what dictator regimes do usually? They create this ideal image of the nuclear family, the traditional nuclear family that, like, very religious. You know, it's allegiance to the state and to the religion. Anyway, people say that, like, there was a lot of support for these groups, these folkloric groups, because it was seen as like amplifying this image of Portuguese just dancing around and being happy and working the land and being very humble people, right? But these groups existed before this all happened. it should be said. So people were already doing this. It's just that they were not doing this to this extent. You know, they were not purposefully, you know, creating these groups to portray this image. That's just something that they did. It was something to celebrate their culture. But the regime took advantage. Of this and used it as propaganda. Hence, these folkloric groups were not an invention from the regime, the dictatorship, but they were heavily used during that time period to promote this image and to reinforce this image of Portugal. So bear that in mind. So what you see today is kind of a mix between both realities, what they were created for and what the state did with them and promoted, right?
The dictatorship that lasted in Portugal for about 50 years.
It was not pre-watched, I swear.
To promote the male groups as good examples of national folklore.
There you go.
They organized contests between them.
So the regime would say that these are good examples of folklore as opposed to the bad examples, right? All the types of things that were not as reinforced and probably a lot was lost as well due to the fact that they were not interested in things that did not portray this image, unfortunately.
Judging not only the singing, but also the costumes.
The clothes, yeah.
Government propaganda insisted that these groups be dressed as typical Alentejo workers, or as domingueiros, with bourgeois Sunday clothes.
Yeah, and with agricultural, you know, tools.
Running counter to this policy was the Alentejano's ability to come up with lyrics about the hardship, hunger, and persecution they endured under the dictatorship.
So, ironic, isn't it? So the state goes like, oh, you know what? This is great. We can use this to create an image of Portugal. There's like these subservient people, these very humble people, people of the land, people that work the land, right? What does Alentejo do? It creates all sorts of songs about everything is we're being f***ed. This is not good. It sucks. Life sucks. We're just enduring the, you know, the hardships of Alentejo and whatnot, which was counter to the message, right? It was not, you know.
When poverty drove many of the Alentejo people to migrate to the industrial suburbs of Lisbon, similar groups started popping up around the capital, proving wherever Alentejanos may go, Cante is part of their identity.
There we go.
Estava madura no ramo e fui encontrar no jardim.
Today the choirs are not exclusively all male. Sometimes they're mixed, or all female, just as it was a century ago when both men and women would sing as they worked, side by side.
Yeah.
The key elements that make Cante unique polyphonic music are the two soloists and the choir. The person who starts the song is always the ponto, someone with perfect pitch, followed by the alto, a higher and more colourful voice. And then finally the choir joins in, giving expression to the Alentejo's collective voice.
So that's it. So you have the ponto being the one that starts the thing, that starts the moda, right? The tune. You have the alto, which is a higher pitched voice that comes in and interjects, and then you have the choir that complements this whole thing. You hear this back and forth that is very much, work song. These are songs people would be singing while they were working.
Vamos lá saindo, vá.
Vamos lá saindo por esses campos fora.
Amanhã vem vindo dos lados da aurora, dos lados da aurora, na manhã vem vindo por esses campos fora, vamos lá saindo.
That's it. That's it. What did you guys think? That's Cante Alentejano. I don't know. I wanted to find something to show you, like something more about Portugal, but without being always the same subjects. And I thought this was interesting. Now you know a little bit more. Hello. Did you like the video? If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, if you have the bell, press the bell. Otherwise, you don't get the juicy stuff next time. Is this how you do it? What do you mean, no? Oh, also, love your face. Bye. Bye. Click the things.